All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Prep for SAT plus ACT session. We're going to give one more minute because we're actually still at 9:29. So we're going to, or 3:29. We're going to give some more time for everyone to join. All right. So we have a full house today. So 1 second. Okay, so without further ado, I'm gonna get started. So I'm gonna share my screen, and if can you guys like raise your hand if you can hear me, okay? Just so that I can check. Some of you maybe. All right, everybody. Thank you. Very good. Very good. Great. All right. We typically, oh, great, great. We typically use Zoom at Mili. So using Google Meet is not, the easiest. I'm sure some of you guys may appreciate and have the same view on Google Meet. All right. So let me share my screen. All right. Can everybody see the screen? Okay. It says Mili's Guide to SAT Success at Paris West University Fair. Can you guys see it? All right, you guys are raising your hand. Okay, so it's gonna be a bit difficult for me because I won't be able to let people as well as look at the screen in a full screen. So it's a bit difficult. So all right. So for those of you, I apologize who's in the chat room. If there's a lot of people coming into the room, I will be switching to this mode to let the latecomers in. But I guess I'll have to do that, but I'll be focusing on mainly on the, Bruno, is there any way that you can let the students in as I'm presenting, or would it be all on me?
I'm sorry, I can try.
Yeah,
I try to help you. Just give me a second.
because yeah, when I'm in the presentation mode, I cannot go back and forth and let people in.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I can try.
Okay, all right. So with that said, without further ado, I'll get started. Hi everyone, it's very nice to meet all of you guys. I wasn't sure how many people were expecting, but I see that there's more than 40 people in the room. My name's Jenna, and I run a company called Mili. So Mili is a company that brings the power of mentors to 12,000 international schools and 6 million students around the world. In a nutshell, what we mean by that is that we work with international school students like you guys from all around the world. I know that I must be preaching to the choirs when I talk about, there's lack of resources locally sometimes, especially during COVID time. If you want to get SAT tutor, if you want to get, let's say, for those of you who are more UK oriented, if you ever want to get tutor for a Cambridge assessment, BMET, UCAT, it's just like so difficult to get those and then have them come by, especially if your school's not based in Paris. I know some of you are in the peripheral or the greater Paris area. So it would be really difficult to get those resources. And again, the same idea for those of you who are like AP student, for those of you who are A-level student, if you have some trouble studying those subjects, or if you want to know how to apply to, let's say, Singaporean university, I know that it can be very, very challenging because the local resources may not be the best. And then your school may be a British school that they're really good at British application. Your school is an American school, Paris, like really good at American stuff. But then, it's not always fully covered locally. How do I know this? Because I grew up like you guys and I studied AP myself, but we have mentors that studied AP, IB, A level. So I guess like the way that we can describe how our company is different than any other maybe tutoring companies or the agency that you may be familiar with is number one, we're completely international, completely virtual, meaning that all of our lessons, all of our sessions, all of our mentoring are done online. We have our own platform to enable that, and I'll show you a little bit about that later. And also, number two, we primarily work with international school students. So we are in about 21 countries now. We don't work with the local school students. We work with either the full international school students like yourselves or kind of like a hybrid school. So hybrid school that they have like a curriculum that's local plus the international curriculum. So yeah, long story short, we're here to help you. So tell you a little bit more about Mili, who are Mili students, so that you guys can see what type of students we typically serve. So Yadavi here was our intern, but she was also our student. She is a student from an IB school in the UK, and she just got into Warwick University to study PPE. PPE means politics and econ and those. And let's look at some more of our student. Here's our Instagram. You can always come and check our Instagram, which has a lot of university related information. And here's one of our other student, Ritvik. He's from Thailand. He went to another IB or an A-level school in Thailand, and currently he's a freshman studying at University of Columbia. Another student is Michelle. She's from Hong Kong. She went to an IB school, and she's now a student studying law in University College London. And she also got into King's College, University of Edinburgh, alongside some of the Canadian universities, as well as US and Hong Kong universities. As you can see, those profiles and the types of information that we share on our link in our social media, hopefully you'll be able to see that that's very, very relevant for you guys. So use that as a resource. And then I gave you all the links that you can check out our Instagram and all that stuff in the chat room. So do check that out. And for some of you who wants to come and chat with me and my team members, come to our booth, which we're in the pavilion, and we're in the Independent Services Pavilion section, and you can find Mili there. All right, so these are our students. And who are our mentors? Mentors are tutors. So some of the mentors are who you are going to see if you decide to work with us on one-on-one or group study basis for the SAT or other subjects. So we have 280 mentors from all around the world, and they're vetted from 10,000 candidates. And most of them are bilingual, just like you guys, and most of them are international, like you guys, meaning they've lived in more than one country, and that is 94% of our 280 mentor database. These are some of the languages that they speak, and this is the background that they have. And another one to say, I think more relevant, is 1 out of 4 of our mentors attended an Ivy League or Oxbridge institution. And if you actually expand it to the top 30 global universities, many of them, represented in today's fair, then this number is almost 100%. So most of our mentors, rest be assured that they've gone through your path, and they will be tutoring, guiding, and mentoring you based on their experience. Another one, more than 60% of our mentors have master's degree and above, and then more than 10% of our mentors have doctoral degree. I don't know how many of the parents are in this room, but I think the one thing that we want to highlight is, should you decide to study with us, our mentors are not undergrad students, just like a bit of local tutors. We believe that life experiences, work experience is very important for the mentors to have to guide your children or you guys. So a lot of our mentors have higher ed degrees here as well. And 62% of our mentors actually went to international schools themselves. I think this is actually one thing that we're most proud of. Any other tutoring companies or the agencies, we've never seen anyone who is primarily focused in international schools. And this international school percentage is something that we're very, very proud of. And 80% of our mentors are actually IB, AP, and A-level graduates. For those of you who are in the OIB program or a French Bac program, we are familiar with the curriculum as well. So rest be assured that we are familiar with what you guys are going through, and we can help you with your SAT prep and as well as the university prep, knowing those curricula. So we're not just coming from some American company that don't know anything about what you guys are going through. So without further ado, for the remaining 21 minutes, I'm going to do my best to talk as much about the SAT as I can. And one thing I want to mention is the topic title is SAT and ACT, but I'll be just using SAT as, the test type that I'm going to describe. And because long story short, for those of you who don't know anything about the SAT and ACT, they're pretty much the same as in there's this crazy myth about if like ACT is much easier, or that you can do so much better in one test and then not so well in the other test. This is really not true. If you prepare it well, SAT and ACT are pretty much like interchangeable. So for today's session's purpose, I'm going to focus on the SAT because given, our typical Mili's Guide to SAT Success session is 1 hour long or more than 1 hour long. But today's given time is 20 minutes. So I'm going to focus on SAT. Any questions you guys have, bring them to our booth. And in the booth, you will also have a QR code. You can set up a one-on-one consultation call with us. Okay, so we'll get started. So what is SAT? SAT is a standardized test that's very widely used for college admissions in the United States and numerous global universities. The point that I want to highlight is the numerous global universities. Another myth is that the SAT or ACT is only being used for the schools in the US. This is really not the case. And a lot of the global universities, including Bocconi University in Italy, both for the regular program as well as the WBB program, which is the World Bachelor in Business program, they both take the SAT score. Also, a lot of the global universities you may be aware of are using SAT as their requirement. So let's look at this document. This is the document that we put together, the list that we put together based on global universities based on the QS ranking. So as you can see here, many of the Middle Eastern universities take the SAT score. And let's look at some of the popular Asian universities. The City University of Hong Kong, the University of Hong Kong, you can both supplement your SAT score as your application requirements. Let's look at their page. So all these links that would take you to the individual universities page that lays out all the requirements, test requirements for the, this particular one is for the IB diploma students, but here you can see the SAT score requirements for each section. Let's look at some of the European universities. So down here, CIANSPO, obviously CIANSPO itself, as well as the CIANSPO and Berkeley program, CIANSPO and Columbia program, CIANSPO and University of Toronto program. Those programs take the SAT score through Common App. And also the school that I mentioned, Bocconi University in Italy, they take the regular, the International Business and Econ program. Your requirement is 1040. And for the WBB program, which is a dual degree or triple degree program with USC, Bocconi, and Hong Kong University of Science and Technology, their requirement is 1350. IE University in Spain, for those of you interested in studying business, also take the SAT score. So long story short, yes, a lot of SAT is very helpful if you are aiming to go to global universities as well. In terms of the numbers, there's more than 2 million students who's taken the SAT amongst class of 2019. And another point that I want to highlight is there's 5 to 6 dates that are available annually. And for those of you outside of the US, when you're going to College Board to sign up for your SAT, make sure that you go to the international registration section. This is the international registration section. And typically, international tests, there's one less test date available, 1 to 2 less test dates available. So you want to come to this page as opposed to going to the US registration page. Okay, so here for the international test taker, which is you guys, that there are 5 test dates available for 2021 to 2022 school year. And these are the test dates. Registration deadline generally is about 1 month before each test here. So the next test, I don't know why it says it's still, it's okay to register because today's past September 3rd. So what you can register is for the December SAT, March SAT, and May SAT. The reason I always highlight and then show this page to the student is, you know, class of 2023 students and class of 2024 students, you guys may think that you have all the time in the world to prepare and take the test. But as this list shows, since there's only 5 tests available, you actually don't have that much time. You need to prepare in advance to know when you will be taking the test. Now, going to class of 2022 students, right? Now, if you've never taken the SAT before, I have some bad news for you. The bad news is that the only time you can take the SAT before the major US and also the UK deadline, UCAS deadline, which is January 15th, is that you only have one chance to take the test, which is December 4th. And the registration for this test is coming up fairly quickly. It's by November 4th. And I highly, highly recommend if you're class of 2022, even just like, open another browser right now and then go into College Board international registration page and then register for your SAT right now. Because the deadline is, January 1st for a lot of schools here, so you won't be able to take the later test to be able to submit your test score. Now, that said, if you're a class of 2023 students in the room, then what you can do is, for us, another recommendation from us is that you finish your SAT or your test prep by the end of your junior year, meaning your second to the last year. Then for you guys, actually, you also have only 3 more test dates available, right? The reason for that, I'm sure, other info sessions that you guys are attending today or during the, school counseling sessions, you guys may know, especially if you're aiming for the US universities, then there's tons of essays that you need to write. And then if you need to do that together with SAT prep during next summer, that's going to be very, very, very challenging because if you're thinking about applying to, let's say, 10 universities in the US plus UK and maybe a couple in France, you end up writing about 10 plus essays alongside all the activities that you have to do for your school, for your application. So Mili, our recommendation is finish up your test prep by the end of your junior year. And if you're following this timeline, then that means you have 3 test dates available for you to take. You can already register for the test, the March test, May test already. So I would suggest that don't wait till later. Go discuss the test dates that's possible with your parents and sign up already. So that would be my tip in this on this slide. And another thing that I want to mention is that there used to be SAT-1 essay and SAT-2 subject test that was available until January of 2021. Now it's fully canceled. For those of you who want to know more about what this means for you, you can go onto our website and there's an article about what that means for you. In short, what that means is your in-school grade will be much more important. So for those of you who are more about engineering-oriented student, what that means is your physics, your chemistry, your bio, your math in-school subject will be more important. And all you need to take the test is the SAT-1, the regular SAT test. And one more thing is SAT is still paper-based as opposed to ACT, which is a computer-based test. All right, so let's go into the next page. So what is the perfect score? So the perfect score of SAT is 1600, and the scoring is done on a relative scale following in a normal distribution. What do I mean by this? Most students know that the perfect score is 1600. However, not many students know or the parents know that how the scoring is done. A lot of parents and the student come to us and ask that, okay, so if I get one question wrong, how many points off is that? And if I get 3 questions wrong, how many point deductions do I get? The answer is there's no such thing as one question equals X number of points because the scoring on the SAT is done on normal distribution. What do I mean by normal distribution? Look at the chart below. So think of the percentages inside are the amount of students and the amount of percentage of students that fit into each of these score category, right? So in each subject, you can get anywhere from 200 to 800. That's the maximum. So hence that math and English combined that you would get 1600 as total, right? So Um, how College Board creates your score, like gives you the score, is that let's say there's 1,000 students who took the test. They would grade your test papers, and then they would rank order you from the top performing student who got the least questions wrong, all the way down to the student who got the most questions wrong. And then they would cut you off based on your performance and assign you the score. So let's look at this score. If you've scored higher than 1,200, which means 600 times 2 here, that means you're the top 15% of the student here, right? That means out of 1,000 students who's taken the test, if you are the top 150, you will be getting above 1,200. And I'm sure many of you have heard someone saying something like 1,400 is a good score, or 1,450 is a good score, or someone saying to go to Ivy League school, you need to have a minimum 1,500. And you may have wondered, like, why is that a good score? Why do I need a 1,500 to go to Ivy League school? And how hard it is to get a 1,500? Now, this is an answer. That the answer to that is here. So to get a 1,400 here, you gotta get 700 times 2. So the top 2% student, or the 20 students out of 1,000 students who's taken the test, will be getting 1,400. So hence people say it's a good score. The top 2% is a pretty good score, right? And for those of you who has heard that to go to Ivy League school, you need to get at least 1,500. That means let's put a bar here, 750. And then that looks like it's about 1%, a bit less than 1%, right? So of course, if you're gonna start thinking about the Ivy League school, of course you should be the top 1% performer. Hence, this notion, or these sayings about you need to get X score to get into XYZ comes from. Hopefully, this explains it, demystifying the scoring mechanism of the SAT. All right, so very quick slide on SAT versus ACT. This is a conversion chart of the SAT versus ACT, and there's a lot of online resources that you can convert your ACT score into SAT. And one pro tip here is that for those of you who are only applying to the US universities, I would say that ACT and SAT is just completely like equivalent. You can take either. And if you are thinking about global universities plus US universities, our recommendation is to take the SAT, because SAT is better recognized globally as opposed to ACT. So that's just one tip from us. All right, so let's go into SAT myth, true or false. All right, so this is a very, very common myth that we hear lately, and we definitely want to demystify this. Test optional means I can get into any of my dream schools without taking the test. Would this be true or false? The answer is, unfortunately, mostly false. And let me clarify what I mean by mostly false, right? Let's look at the scenarios. Most students' dream schools, by definition, are out of their league, right? Whoever you ask, it would be sort of the same. It's like Harvard, Stanford, Johns Hopkins, whatever, right? So these are typically the schools that come up, right? And then one thing that you need to remember is that test optional doesn't mean that a student who would have gotten an 1150 on his or her SAT will get into a 1500 average school. I know this is like a very obvious thing to say, but a lot of students forget this point, that only because the school is test optional, they apply and expect that there would be a chance going in, right? So I think that for us, whether the school is a test optional or not, what you can do is this: you can go on Google and type in for your dream school and SAT average score. Let's say it is NYU SAT average, right? Then you look at the scores there. Let's say it's 1450, right? And then they also give you the GPA, or the school grade average. And then whether you take it or not, whether you submit the test or not, by the point, or you are at that level when you're performing at your practice test, when you're performing at that level in school, then that qualifies you as the potential and qualified candidate. It's not that it's because test optional doesn't mean that you can apply to any schools and you'll be able to get in. Number two is, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but SAT is only for the US universities. Is this true or false? It is false. Many of the popular global universities take SAT as their either primary or supplemental testing requirement. And the list that I showed you earlier, that you actually will be able to receive it from us. If you scan this QR code, it would take you to the page that you can submit your email address, and it will be the list will be sent to you. So for those of you who are interested, I'm gonna stop here on this slide for maybe 1 minute. So scan this QR code or use the chat room. I think I've shared in the chat room that you can, there's a tiny URL link here. Then you go through that tiny URL link and you can receive the document through there. So this is the document that I showed you earlier with all the links for the global universities. This list excludes the US universities. Obviously, you can just go check it out in the US universities. So these focus on global universities. So to do that, use the link in the chat room as well as the QR code here. All right. So since we have only 5 more minutes to go, I'm sure that you guys have questions for me, then just come visit our booth. Again, it's in the pavilion under independent services section. And in there, either you can catch us there or you would be able to see the QR code where you can sign up for one-on-one consultation with us. All right, let's move on. So I think I have a couple more slides. So the next is like, when should I sign up and how to study? So we talked about it. If you're class of 2022 students, sign up right now. You can sign up to December SAT by November 3rd, but don't wait for it because a lot of the test centers may get fully booked. So do it right now. And another pro tip is you can also take the test by doing a standby. Standby meaning you can just show up at the test center, and if someone doesn't show up, you can take that person's spot. So October 3rd, October 4th, October 2nd, or October 4th, the test date, you will be able to show up at the test center and then mention that you are a standby test taker. The test is starting at 8, so you want to show up at 7:30 the latest, but if you're a test standby, I would suggest you show up a bit earlier and then mention that you're a standby test taker. You can do that. So class of 2022 students, definitely do that. And class of 2023 and class of 2024 students, again, you want to finish taking the test by the end of your junior school year. Class of 2023 student, that means by May of 2022. Class of 2024 student, that's May of 2023. Class of 2023 students, then you have 3 more test dates to go. And we generally recommend you to take the SAT more than twice. And College Board actually also recommends you to take the test more than twice. And because what you can do is this thing called super scoring, meaning you can combine the highest score of each section. So if you've gotten a higher score in the English in one time, and then you got a higher score in the math in the other time, you can combine those 2 scores and that becomes your final grade. So to take advantage of those, and generally speaking, the second time, your score will get better. There's a study that's done by College Board that says 2 out of 3 students perform better on their second SAT. So for those reasons, you do want to have more, minimum twice of the test date available. So do so for class of 2023 during the December, March, and May time. I would say December and May, or December or March. And for class of 2024 student, maybe perhaps you want to start from the August of next year as the first test, study during the summer, and then take the test in August, and then one more time, maybe December or March. So now, that's just on the official SAT side. If you want to prep a little bit with us, Mili, I'll give you some of the resources here. So number 1 resource, this is 100% free. We do full SAT diagnostic tests every single month. Every single month, we have hundreds of students joining our virtual SAT diagnostic tests. That's hosted for CET. I think it's 8 a.m. So for you guys, it'll be 8 a.m. And there's students joining from the Middle East, Asia, everywhere. And so to sign up for this, scan this QR code, and it would take you to this page where you can sign up for our test. Follow the instruction here, and then after you follow the instruction, you will receive an email with your personal link, and that's all you need to do. about 4 or 5 days before the test, you will receive the Zoom link, you will receive the Google Calendar invite, you will receive an email with all the other instructions that you need. All you need to do right now is just like sign up using this QR code. And then you will be receiving your diagnostic test score about a week after. And there will be also a free feedback session on how you perform compared to the other students who's taken the test. So far, there's more than 3,000 students who took advantage of this. And there's some students also coming from Paris, France area. So definitely take advantage. And next, a couple slides are we do have tutoring, online tutoring programs. So we have both the group program as well as the one-on-one program. Here, I'm going to talk about a bit of the group program. And if you're interested in one-on-one, again, come to our booth and check with us, and we'll give you the options and more information there. So if you're a starter, we recommend you to take the Mili intro class, which is starting on October 5th. This will prepare you for the December 4th SAT test. It's twice a week and it's 3:30 p.m. French time, but we may be introducing times that's more applicable for you guys because we know that some of you don't come home for certain days, much later than 5 p.m. Based on the school schedule. So don't worry about the timing now. If you're interested, just go check it out on our e-commerce site. And another program that we have is an intensive program. This is a program for the students who scored above 1200. So this could be coming from your own practice test you've done through Khan Academy or on your own, or you've taken our diagnostic test and then you've scored 1200 or more, or if you've taken the official SAT and then you scored up 1200 or more. This is for you guys. And quickly to show you, this is our e-commerce website. You can come here. You can select the start date, add to the cart, and after that, everything's just like any of your shopping website. All right, we talked about this, the timeline, so I'm going to skip this. And last but not least, this was super short session. So go to Pavilion, go to Independent Services section, and come to Mili, and you'll be able to meet me and my other team members. So come here, and then by using this QR code, you can set up a consultation session with us. Yes, so that is everything for you guys today. Thank you everyone for joining, and hopefully I'll see some of you guys at our booth. Thank you.